Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Trappin' in Japan, the only show on YouTube about trapping in Japan. This is the bonus episode I decided to construct after doing my mixing series on Ableton, and I decided why don't I just master the same beat, that way you guys can understand the full process. If you haven't, you can watch my mixing series up here, I'll also link it down in the description. So today we're going to master that beat using only Ableton 10's tools. Let's get started. Okay, so before we do anything, make sure your pre-master is hitting -3 to -6 decibels. It's something I mentioned in the other video. If you still didn't do it, what the fuck are you doing? Once you're all caught up, let's hop into our DAWs. Don't listen on bad headphones. Well, you can listen on bad headphones, but you should also be listening on good headphones too. So listen on good headphones first, and then check on bad headphones later on also. So let me go over a few things here. When you export it, you're gonna want to export it at the bit depth that you mixed it in. So for me that was 16, and then you're gonna want no dither. If we're gonna do any sort of dithering, that's gonna be done in the mastering stage. You're gonna want to export either as WAV or AIFF. Your sample rate should be whatever sample rate you mixed it in. Then you're gonna want to get yourself some coffee, smoke some weed, or smoke a cigarette, whatever you do, masturbate, whatever you gotta do. I did all of that. Now that I'm back, I'm ready. Okay, you're gonna want to open up a brand new Ableton file. You're gonna want to drag in your mixdown file. We're gonna name this master, the track that we put our mixdown on, and the other one we're gonna name reference. Just sipping on heroin, just raw heroin. I know what you guys are thinking. This video series is never gonna fucking end, but you're wrong. This is the end of it here. I don't know what we would do after mastering it. We're gonna unmaster it. This is how you demaster a song. This is part 17 of how to make and deconstruct a song, and then reconstruct it, and then deconstruct it again. Just keep going. I do my process a little bit different than other people. So what I do is I do my limiting or maximizing when I get started. That way I know whether or not we are going to be hitting our max levels, and if there's any sort of issue with the mix. So I'm gonna put a limiter on our master track. Not our actual master track, the one that we named master. This is gonna get a little confusing. Okay, we're gonna change the look ahead to 1.5, and then we can just leave the release on auto for now. And you can leave the ceiling where it is. 0.3 is pretty fair and safe. I'm gonna name some of the goals of mastering. It can be to clean up a file, it can be to make it as loud as possible, it can be to make it hit a target volume. You can use it to enhance the quality of a file, make it sound more rich. You can boost certain things, you can cut certain things. There's a lot to be done in mastering. You can convert the file type, bitrate, all that. You can get it ready for people to listen to it in any format essentially, and to have it as good as possible. So with that in mind, usually the hardest part is getting it as loud as possible. So I usually try to do that first. Once I know I can get it as loud as I want without destroying it, then I know whether or not we need to go back into the mix and fix anything, and yeah, that should be good. So first things first, I'm gonna try to push this as much as possible and see how loud we can get it. So once I have this limiter on here, I'm gonna start pressing the gain up. So as much headroom as you have, you should be able to push that much on the gain at least, right off the bat. So we should be able to do at least 3.5 here without it messing up the sound. Alright, so that sounds pretty good. But let's compare it to our reference file. That's a cool comment. The saxophone put my child to sleep in the beginning, and that was a great thing. This is 10 out of 10. That's what I'm here to do, guys. You're gonna put your children to sleep. Okay, we got a reference track. You're gonna pick out something of a similar genre, something that you could see playing back to back with it.
I learned the game from William Wesley.
Get out of here, Drake. People are tired of that song already. Come on, man. Jesus, dude. I was just coming in here, taking up my fucking airtime. Alright, so I dragged in our reference file, and I put it on the other track here. So as you can see, we need quite a bit We have to do quite a bit to make our loudness on the same level. So we can push our limiter more, the gain. Let's try to do that. Let's push it another 2 decibels and see how it sounds. As you can see, we're still not compressing very much. We're only doing like 1 or 2 decibels of compression, which is good. Let's try push it to 6 decibels again, see what happens. Still sounds fine. Let's compare it with our reference. It's almost there. I think with a little more gain, it should be there. So let's try push it one more. Now we're gonna compare it with it. So they're pretty much, I say they're about on the same level right now, except the reference, the snare hurts quite a bit more. You're gonna have to keep certain things in mind like that while you're comparing your original and reference. You may want to switch out your reference track if that confuses you too much. You can adjust the release timing here if you want. It may be easier just to leave it on auto for you, but so far we don't really have too many knobs to twist, so I think you should be able to handle this, right? So I think it's about good there. This should go without saying, but you're going to want to be listening on good headphones or on a monitoring setup. Since I'm doing this video, I have to use headphones. I cannot use my monitors due to feedback. I would be using monitors right now. I would say it's about the same loudness. So now that we've got that out of the way, we're gonna group this, Control G or Command G. All right, then we're gonna rename it Max. And this is gonna be our maximum setting master. We're gonna wanna make 2 different versions. So we're gonna make the maximum loudness version, and then we're gonna make a minimum loudness version. The maximum loudness version is something you're gonna wanna use for like CDs, SoundCloud, or anything that doesn't really compensate for mastering, or the loudness wars, as they call it. And then we're gonna have our minimum one, which is gonna have a much lower target loudness. It sounds cleaner, but we don't have to worry about the loudness wars as much. So we're gonna have a maximum one and a minimum one. And the maximum one, we started already. So, and then within this chain, we're gonna add some more stuff. So I'm gonna add an EQ8. I don't know if I'm gonna do any compression. Maybe I might do a little bit of compression, because then if we do a little bit of compression, we don't need to do as much limiting, and it might sound a little bit cleaner. So first thing I'm gonna do with this EQ8 is I'm gonna roll off some of the low frequencies. You gotta be careful with this. It's very easy to go overboard here. We just wanna get some of the low frequencies that are just muddying it up or causing some issues. So probably around like 10 hertz. So you're gonna wanna listen here, use your ears very carefully. I'd say about there is good for me. I just cut off 2 decibels, nothing crazy. I'm gonna make another EQ8 here, and this one is gonna be for sweetening it. I'm only gonna use bells here. So I'm gonna sweeten the snare area a little bit. You're gonna wanna do that trick I taught you in the other video where you sweep through the mix to find good areas, or areas that you deem to sound good, and then dial it back a little bit. Then I'm going to have all of these hit at about the same level of gain. I'm going to start out pretty small, and I'm also going to like narrow the cues quite a bit. So maybe I'll do 0.1 on the gain. So I'm gonna go in here and type 0.1 for all of these. Then we'll make the Q about 1 on all of them. Still sounds like it's a little strong, so I'm gonna dial it back. I'm gonna do 0.05 on all of these. There's also a nice little scale knob here, so we can bring back our EQ overall. We can dial back the scale, and that'll bring it all back. Very useful in mastering. So I'm just gonna put the scale at about like 15%. Then we put on a little glue compression here. Gonna mess with the settings a little bit, threshold. Then I'm gonna turn down the dry wet and see where it sounds good in the mix. Just something real subtle there, kind of adds to it without really taking away from it. Let's compare it to a reference file again. I mean, it's close enough for me. Really, the only thing we gotta do to make it the same now is just go back and turn our snare up like 5 decibels, and it'll be hurting about the same amount. Okay, so I think we have our maximum version sorted. This is just a basic master here. You can get much more complicated with it. You can have like some sort of mixture of like tape effect running into it, or you can bring in a little bit of saturation. There's a lot of different things you can do. You can multi-band compress. That's a good technique for bringing out bass and stuff like that. I think I have a tutorial on it, but I don't know if I did mastering in that. I just did it in a mix. Or I did it on a sample, that's what it was. Okay, so now I'm gonna do the minimum chain. So I'm gonna just duplicate this whole thing. I'm gonna turn off the other one, and I'm gonna rename this one to min. Not min, min, which stands for minimum. And essentially we're just gonna leave all the settings the same, but we're gonna dial back the limiter. Okay, so unfortunately Ableton doesn't have its own built-in metering in here, so we're gonna have to download one on the internet real quick. I'm just gonna use a free VST one, and I'll link it down in the description so you can join in on the fun stuff such as metering. Okay, cool. We're gonna open up our project again and bring in this loudness meter. So put the loudness meter on your master track, close all the pop-ups. We're gonna drag the loudness meter onto our master track here. And we're gonna wanna make sure we have our minimum chain enabled. Okay, so we're getting around -10 LUFS. For our minimum version, we're gonna wanna aim for -12. So I'm gonna dial back the gain a couple decibels here, maybe 1.5. Okay, there we go. Now we're at about -12 LUFS. So our targets for each one are going to be different. For the maximum, we're going to want to be targeting around -8 to -7 LUFS, depending on how competitive you want to be with the loudness wars. And then for the minimum version, you're going to want to target somewhere between -12 to -14 LUFS. And this is more for Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, most streaming platforms. Okay, and now that we are done, you can export your track and make sure you have the right chain enabled, and then you name them separately so you do not get confused. This doesn't have to be the end of your mastering either. You can try to figure out ways to make it louder if you want. You can figure out ways to make it brighter. Whatever problem you feel like you may be having. Just remember to try to work subtle and try not to damage your tracks too much. Okay, that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed this video on mastering and this series on mixing and mastering. I'll do another series like this in Ableton again once I find another project I think is qualified. I need something a little more complicated than this one. I want to do something real simple for this project. That way you guys can just get the basics of it. And then next project I'll do something with like twice as many tracks, and we can get into the more nitty-gritty aspects. So another series should be coming eventually, so stay tuned for that in a month or two. So it's plug time. Plug time. If you guys didn't know, there's some Weaver Beats merch out there. Now, I'm not wearing it right now, but I'm gonna edit it on myself in post, like right now. Don't worry, if you guys buy it, it'll look a lot better on you than it looks on me right now, because I edited it on myself in post. Also, I run a company named Bloom Audio, bloom-audio.com, most affordable mixing and mastering on the planet. Don't look that up. For the rest of the month, I'll be offering 15% off. Just use the code Weaver at checkout. And yeah, you get a nice 15% off on your already cheap mixing and mastering. I'm your host, Weaver Beats. This has been a mastering tutorial on Ableton. And let me know what kind of video ideas you guys have. I need some more ideas. It's like nothing going on up here. Tune in next time when I make peanut butter and jelly waffles.